questions digging so sharp, peeling back layers, hitting the heart. Sharp Shoot Podcast, blowing your mind. Every topic, one of a kind.
Yes, welcome to the show. Author of Mao's America, a very eye-opening book, and you've done a lot of things. You've had a viral speech. You've been on Hannity, Tucker Carlson. I think you were recently at the White House. So please welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. No, I was recently invited to an event in Congress, but tomorrow I'm going to White House. So you were a little bit ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, but I was invited tomorrow there's an event there, so I will tell you about it.
Yeah. So we can't go through the entire book. I want people to read it. But yeah, my first question was, so for you, your experience, you're writing from your experience as you start when you're 7 years old, 1966, China goes through the Cultural Revolution. And I just wondered, it sounded like a lot of it started in the schools, in education, and why you think that they started there. Because I feel like, again, I worked in education for 17 years. I have a lot of friends and family that are teachers. Many of them are very liberal, and I feel like they're buying into this propaganda. And do you think that they would be surprised to know that one of the first groups that the Chinese communists went after was the school teachers and administrators?
Yeah. Okay, so this will be not an easy answer. Let me go back a little bit further than 1966, which was the time that the Cultural Revolution started. So by then, the Chinese Communist Party has been in power for 17 years. How did they win the victory to take over China from the nationalists? Those are the people now in Taiwan. Okay, so their base, now we use the word base, right? Base. What was the base? The base was the poor peasants. Okay, so they mobilized the landless peasants and promised them free land. And so that was Mao's revolution was really a peasant revolution. So they were able, because it's took up to like 90% of the population, promised them free land, follow me. And when the revolution was successful, you're going to have free land. And that's really how they got and the radicalized intellectuals. Always intellectuals played them. Mao himself, was a radicalized intellectual. So that is how they won the victory, first victory to gain power over China. And then after that, the real revolution started. It is the socialist revolution. So one of the things they did in the late 1950s was to have this fantasy campaign that Mao believed that he can mobilize all the people, 600 million at the time, to just to mobilize them to do one thing, to make steel. And he believed that in 15 years, he can surpass United States. It's called the Great Leap Forward. Everyone drop everything, school teachers and kids, and peasants drop off the work in the fields. They did one thing: making steel, like furnaces in the backyard. But that campaign failed miserably. At the same time, the crops failed. And after that, it was the Great Famine, lasted for 3 years, killed up to 50 million people. So that was a big deal. That was, and even in the totalitarian regime, that was a big deal. So Mao was forced to admit that, he messed up. And he had forced to give up certain power, not all. And it's all happened within the party. Outside, people have no idea what was happening inside the party. But he was forced to give up some of his power. And then someone else was in charge. And he was the president of China, and tried to focus on improving the economy rather than class struggle. Mao did not like that. He's a dictator. He wanted all the power. So he spent about 4 years to have a comeback. And now fast forward to 1966. That was his Cultural Revolution. The goal is to take back power. Okay, imagine the first time he used the peasants. This time, his goal is to take down his own party, to take down his own government, take down his own institution. He had an army, but he really could not use the army. But that looked like a coup, right? But he had a better army that was tens of thousands of kids that have been indoctrinated in the government school in the past 17 years, who could not think and they're incapable of thinking, and I was one of them. And the only thing they were taught is to follow their leader, follow their God, which is Mao. Whatever he asked them to do it, they will do it. That's why he did not go other right, like using the army. He had an army. And so that is, I think at that time, it's like, I don't know the exact number, but tens of millions of young people from elementary school all the way to universities. And so he gave them power. That's the key. He gave them power to do whatever and what he wanted them to do, to take down, destroy the four olds. Old ideas, old tradition, old habits, and old habits. The four tradition, basically take down the tradition, and also to take down what Mao called the reactionary intellectual authority. Okay, because all of them Mao regarded as a part of the rotten institution, part of that need to be destroyed and replaced by his own version of Marxism, which is Maoism. So, what do you think the kids had in mind when they think about authority?
Yeah, they don't like, I mean, kids don't like authority anyways, usually.
Yeah, the teachers, right? The
Yeah,
first thing
right.
they think about authority is the teachers, because that's every day there's the teacher order them around asking to do this and that and whatever. So they went after the teachers. And then they went after the administrators, the principals. And so it was like a rebellion of young people going after the teachers. And so at that time in China, there was not one single principal that was not spared. They have to go through the struggle sessions and beaten by the kids, many of them killed. And the first one was the principal killed was by a bunch of young girls in the most prestigious middle school for girls in Beijing. And that was only about 3 months into the Cultural Revolution. So that was the first death by the kids. And then nothing happened to them, because that's what Mao wanted. And so, and the violence became the norm right after that. Okay, but killing teachers was not really Mao's goal. It's the people in power. Those he considered his political enemy. So one by one, the Red Guards took down those people in power. Eventually took down the president of China, Mao's arch enemy. His name was Liu Shaoqi. He went through struggle sessions and then eventually imprisoned and died a few years later. And we did not even know until after the Cultural Revolution what happened to him. Just disappeared, gone. So that was, I hope that explained why kids, why teacher.
It's a smart strategy. I mean, it's evil, but it's intelligent.
It's a strategy, absolutely. Yeah. Give them all the power. That is, people say, how could these young people have that kind of power? and they can order the principal to kneel and then torture them. And then why? Because they were given the power. Because Mao told the young people that they were his Red Guards, and he was their commander, Red Commander in Chief. They have the power. And that's why people now should be able to understand why the BMAmers, the Antifa, had that kind of power. They just could do whatever in 2020, right? To burn down the whole cities and attack people, and nothing happened to them.
Yeah,
They were given the power.
I've never seen anything like that in my life, where it was like the police just went hands off and just let, because they were scared that a police would shoot somebody and then there'd be a controversy. So they just kind of let everybody, they said, well, it's better to just let the city burn than to try to.
Yeah, it's because someone gave them power. And that is the whole entire Democratic Party that gave them the power. Remember, Kamala was here and there supporting all those criminals, and gave them this and what do you call that? You know, if you are a bail, right? Gave them bail, and that's because those rioters, those so-called revolutionaries, were empowered. That's why when people like me saw it, oh, this is nothing new. We saw it before. We saw it in China. The same time during the Cultural Revolution, the police were warned: if the Red Guards hit you, you cannot fight. You cannot hit back. You cannot. And they were forbidden to go into campuses. Why? Because that's where the killing were taking place. Same thing. And eventually, Mao dismantled the whole so-called justice system. So there's no police, absolute chaos. And here we disabled the police. We demonized them and we disabled them, that they're not to fight back. Okay, if you do, look what happened to the officer. What's his name?
Derek Chauvin? Chauvin, the guy that killed.
Chauvin. Yeah, what happened to him?
He's in prison.
Well, in prison. Yeah, absolutely. And there's no way you can argue that he was doing, following the what he was taught, trained for it, right? And there's just no way you can argue. You end up in jail. Who else there to stand up and stop the rioters? Nobody. So it's a cultural revolution.
Yeah.
Repeat.
Did they, you said they had these posters on the walls when, I mean, they didn't have social media then, so the posters, but did they have similar kind of strategies? Because here, I mean, if you look at the terminology they're using, it's really smart, like Black Lives Matter. So if you're against that, then you don't think Black Lives Matter and you're racist, or anti-fascist. Yeah. If you're against that, then you're pro-fascist. Did they do similar kinds of things?
Of course. China? So when those people that they went after, they were not called racists. They're called counter-revolutionaries, and or for those in power, like an upper level, they were called capitalist roaders. Capitalist roaders. I know it's a stupid term. Well, what it means is those people want to take China back to capitalism, to the road of capitalism. So those are bad people. So yeah, of course, there's a racial racism was not a thing in China.
Yeah, it was more about class, right?
Yes, class. And the class was over because by then it was supposedly a classless society, because all the people that own land, own property, own factory, they were eliminated by that time. So now it is a black class versus red class. Black is the people that have wrong thoughts and have condemned as thought criminals. And then the people with in the red class are the people who are supporters or followers of the revolution. it's the same thing. It's just substitute the real class.
Yeah.
Class is that you have to have stuff. By then, nobody had stuff. Everything was taken away by the state.
Yeah. And you said Mao was from a rich family himself. I think your quote was, only these elite people have time to start a revolution. Everyone else
To
is
think about the revolution,
yeah.
it's the same thing. You think
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders was a proletarian, and you think he was a working class person? No, he is a multi-millionaire. And so it's always the case. You know, that's here you have a better word, and it's called 白左. Have you heard about that word? White liberals. And so those are the, it's a Chinese word that it's the Chinese people in China gave the called the white liberals 白左, which means white lefties.
Interesting. No, I've never heard that. I've heard limousine liberals.
This get into the American vocabulary, and even Tucker Carlson had a little program when he was still in Fox, and he talked about this word 白左. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Did they know what did they when you were a kid? What did they teach people in China about America? That Americans was evil, evil capitalists, and
yeah, of course. It's and so starting in the very beginning, the Chinese Communist Party, not just Chinese Communist Party, the Soviet Union, they had a trinity of enemies. And so among them is Christianity, capitalism, and United States. Because United States happened to be the strongest capitalist country. So they always, so we're taught that it's an evil country. It's a country that is for the rich, and the poor had no say. They were oppressed. There's just like a living hells for working class people.
Yeah, and it sounds like you said, they used the peasants and they would promise them land, and then you said they ended up being worse off than when they started. And then the people
that is something I try to tell American people, because right now we are on the phase one of the revolution, which is a woke revolution, and with all the promises, just like the phase one of Chinese Communist Revolution promised what? Free land, fairness, justice. And so you follow me, we're going to build this society that is classless, that is that everyone has to share the same thing, which is like neighbors. Just like Tim Watts said, socialism is neighborliness. That's what they believed. And what happened? Okay, so they got the land because after the revolution in 1949, after they got power, and they started this campaign called land reform. All the peasants were organized to take land from the landlord. Not only that, they have to go through class struggle. You can't just like a order from central government that you have to get the land. No, they don't want that. They want bloody conflict, because through that they believe the peasants will gain consciousness, class consciousness, because class was not a thing in China. It's not something you're born with, and you can get rich or you can lose your fortune. So it's not. But through this bloody conflict, they hope that the peasants will gain the class consciousness. And during that campaign, it took like 3 years. 2 million landlords were killed. Killed by who? By peasants. So they turned peasants into thugs and killers. And that's what the revolution was about. So that's how they got the land. So they were happy. Okay, I killed the landlord, but I'm okay with it because I got land. 3 years later, maybe 4, The government said, now everybody has a little bit land, but that's not very efficient. Let's share. Let's just put land all together. So it's called people's commune. So your land is mine, mine is yours. That's just a happy big family. So within 4 years, they lost their land. Everyone. So it's even today. There's no land. Every inch of land in China belong to the state, belong to the party.
That's so, and that's, yeah. And didn't you say, see, one of your biggest things about this book is, and your advice to Americans is to understand what's going on. You can't fight back if you don't understand. And that's one of the things that you mentioned is that that's a big clue. Whenever they use the word peoples, the People's Republic, the People's Commune, the people's money, that's a huge red flag.
Yes, absolutely. It's not we the people, it's people's. And so this is very important for Americans to understand, but they don't, because we lived the phase 2 of the communist promise. We are right now in phase 1, right? We're still the promise this, promise that the human rights. We're going to have a society that we're all entitled of everything, not just life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but we are entitled of housing, we're entitled of health care, we're entitled of how about food, how about everything else? Sounds so good. And if you know history, you know what's going to happen, really happen. But people don't know history because it's not taught, and that is by design. When you don't know history, you thought you're engaged something just new. And I think a lot of times in 2020, people just like shocked. What is going on? What happened to our country? And I'm sure this is shocking to a lot of people, but to people like me, seen this before, done that, know what is what the end result is. That's why, yeah, my book is really just to educate people, to let people know that this is history repeating.
Yeah, because you make a good point about how everyone, majority of people agree Nazis are bad, right? We agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's like there's this sudden resurgence of communism and socialism, or democratic socialism, or they call it different things. That's basically communism, and that it's not bad. They don't talk about the history, the famines, and Stalin, and all these people that are communist leaders that people have suffered under their reign, and that's people like, there's a lot of young people that want this. They are pushing.
Oh, they want it. Yeah. Absolutely. And the new party, you know that there is a Communist Party USA that founded in 1919. And 2 years before the founding of Chinese Communist Party, which was 1921. So it's called CP USA, Communist Party USA. And in recent, it's kind of like outdated, and it's there, but recently their membership is increasing like crazy. Yeah, and now we have a new party called the Revolutionary Communist Party USA, and we saw them. I saw the videos of them having demonstration in Philadelphia with a flag, the sickle and hammer flag. They absolutely think this is the greatest thing. Why? Here, there are just so many things happened. So many things happened that history was rewritten, erased, or created. So why people condemn Nazi? And after the World War II, laws were passed, especially in Germany. You cannot defend Nazism. You cannot even question it. You cannot even question it. If you even question a certain event during Nazi time, you can be prison, jailed. A lot of people were jailed by asking questions. And how about communism? This is the real problem, because during the World War II, FDR and the American policymakers decided that somehow it is a good idea to ally with a communist regime, a totalitarian communist regime against Nazi. And after the World War II, it was the communists that put the Nazi on trial. So after World War II, I think like a communism, okay, even today, you can ask a lot of young people if they know any history at all. They are grateful that Soviet Union helped to defeat Nazi. How many people Nazi killed? I think it's about 20 million. How many people communists killed? Hundreds of millions.
Right.
People don't know. People
No.
don't know because it's deliberately hidden from the public.
Yeah. And then the whole idea is to divide people into the oppressor or the oppressed. And so, like you said, in China, they didn't have the race thing because most people were Chinese, so that they used class. But here they're using race. But there does seem to be the class thing too. There's a lot of like hatred towards billionaires and
Absolutely.
rich people.
No.
Yeah. But
Yeah, right.
the billionaires that are on the left side, which that's what I find. Like you said, Bernie Sanders, he has 3 houses, he's flying private jets, but they don't call him out. He's okay to have money. I don't understand it.
Okay. This is what happened. Okay. So classic Marxism is based on class struggle. It's all everything, whatever happened, they call it class struggle, and that was Mao's motto. We will talk about class struggle every year, every month, every day. It is the thing, we have, okay, but that did not really work in the classic Marxism did not work in industrialized country. It never worked. It's supposed the revolution is supposed to take place in UK, Germany, and France. Back then, in the mid 1800, the United States was not even that much industrialized. So Karl Marx thought that those are the countries that will see the uprising of the working class, and then the communist revolution. It did not happen. And because capitalism somehow able to generate enough wealth that created a middle class, right? So no one having a okay life, if not great, will join your revolution, and which might mean that you lose everything, even your life. So the first communist revolution that took place, that successfully took place, was in the backwarded country of Russia. And then China was even less developed. So, but okay, it was successful. But in order to take down the West, you have to do something different because it just won't work. And so that is why we have cultural Marxism, right?
Yeah. Do you think, I wanted to get your take on immigration and that whole thing, because I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime where the border was just so open. Were they bringing these immigrants in to help with the revolution, or because it was under the guise of, oh, we care about these people, we give them help? And
okay, help me to stay on track. So I'm getting somewhere. Because the cultural Marxism is tailor-made for the West, so you still have class, because that's the Bernie Sanders breed, right? They still talk about rich against the poor, but that's just not enough. If that's all they talk about, it's just not enough. So they have to go broaden it. And in America, what you do, of course, race. So it's a black against white. Now it is non-white against white. They're now against brown people, black people, brown and whatever, and then sex, women against men. And then it is and it is sexuality, gay against whatever they call cis people,
cisgender.
They made it up, and then it's they absolutely, they just expand. Why? to divide. Okay, so when you talk about immigration, okay, there's a lot of things going on about immigration. One, to me, the easiest way to understand it is to import proletarians. Proletarian is the word that Marxists use. Proletarians against the bourgeois. That was the terms that I grew up with. Proletarians are the oppressed. Bourgeois were the oppressor. Okay, so the reason they want to import so many, we know that they want to import voters. They also want to import enough proletarian to change the markup of the population, right? So if you look at that way, it's just easy to understand. And where do these people go? They don't go to the rural areas. They all pretty much go to the city, and then they can make stronghold for the Democrats and keep those states blue. Because the more underclass, the bigger it is, it's easier for them because they promise them. They always promise them free stuff. So in a way, this is how I look at it. The open border is really a way for them to import poor people so that they can have a better way to have class struggle. The Marxist, the classic Marx doctrine, class struggle. That you expand the underclass, because those people mostly come here and get into cities and join the underclass, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. And of course, they don't, and the people that come in is another way to divide the American society, because those people, most of them do not share the same value. And then you created tribes, and that's what they want. And all the things they do is create more tribes, that tribes with some kind of identity. We are not short of any identity. If you don't have one, created one, because that is what they do. They create tribes. When we have tribes everywhere, we don't have a United States of America. We have a divided States of America. And then that's how they control. And then one of the biggest questions is why they do that? Why Mao would divide all the people and set them against each other? We know why. Mao, right? He want power.
Yeah.
He divide, control, and he got power. Same thing here. Same thing here. They want to divide, and through division, they take control because they want power.
So
in your
view, seeing this play out in real time, if things continued and it did go to the phase 2 or the next levels, these some of these elites, like there's a lot of celebrities. You mentioned in your book, like Don Lemon, he's considered oppressed. Bruce Springsteen recently has spoke out against Trump. And you say in the book that fancy clothes and hairstyles are banned. How would these like Hollywood elites and the rich liberals, how would they how would it work out for them? Like, are they going to get screwed over?
Yes. This is I'm glad we need to keep on track, because if sometimes I just go off track. So let's go back to the Mao's revolution. So I said in his first revolution, it was poor peasants, and poor peasants is the majority of the population. And then they have the radicalized intellectuals. So the intellectuals actually are well-to-do people. You can't be an intellectual if you're dirt poor, right? Usually from rich family, and they kind of like today's white liberals. They feel like they know what's the best way for people to live. They want to liberate the marginalized people. They want to help the marginalized people. So that's there, because in the West, it's even worse. Why? Because the cultural Marxism have indoctrinated so many people. They absolutely believe in the original sin, the white guilt, and the sin of the white sin, which is slavery, Jim Crow. They absolutely believe that they are responsible for it. And so cultural Marxism give you a way out, give you a redemption. You can attempt by what? By join the revolution, by become a part of the woke revolution, because you stand for the oppressed. Now you stand for the marginalized, and you become part of the revolution. But again, what happened in China? That is why it's just so important for people to understand what happened. What happened to those intellectuals after the culture and after the communists took over power? They did land reform. I described already, right? They also did something called thought reform.
Right. Yeah.
Those are
the same thought, right? Isn't that what you said?
Thought reform.
Yeah.
So those are for those intellectuals that helped with the revolution. The same people that helped the revolution now become a danger because they think, right? The peasants don't think. Then you give them land, they will be happy, supposedly, right? But the intellectuals, they think. So they have this thought reform that took place but at the same time. So the target is the intellectuals. And after that, they have the anti-right campaign. So it's like a nonstop. And during that campaign, millions of intellectuals, or the so-called liberals, they are persecuted, and some sent to the labor camp. Many died there. And that is what happened to the liberals.
And what about how did China deal with the? I want to know how they dealt with this problem in the past and how they deal with it now. Because here we have a big thing with drug addicts, homeless people, vagrants, people on disability, a lot of people that just want to do nothing and they want to do their drugs and just be free or whatever. Like, how would that work? How does that work in China if someone's just, I want to be homeless and I'm just going to smoke pot or drink out? Like, because don't they see you as like kind of an employee of the state? Like, you need to be producing, and if you're not producing, then they want to get rid of you, right?
The key is to understand whether homeless will be helpful for those who want power. Here too, right? It's helpful.
Okay.
They want
to
as
get
many
the
people.
power, but then once they have the power, then what do? They don't get rid of them?
Now let me go back to China.
Okay.
That's kind of that's what I try to tell people. We have to compare. What happened in China is that before they took power, and the government, the Chinese Communist Party actually were cultivating opium for money, because they don't have enough money to sustain themselves. So they actually began to cultivate opium and then traffic it out to the government-controlled areas, which is the nationalist. So because they want money. So they don't care because they're all Chinese, right?
Yeah.
Some is under their rule in the certain parts of China, and the others are under the government of Republic of China. They traffic the opium to the government-controlled area in exchange for money to sustain their base. Okay, so after, and they did not allow the opium to be distributed within their area, tightly controlled. You can't. Okay, so once they took over China, they want people to obey. They want people to be productive. they almost right away they banned drug use, they banned prostitution, they banned everything that's supposed to be bad. But before they encourage that, because that become a a way to disable the destabilize the society. Yeah. So so you think those rioters today they can just go into the store and loot and there's no problem? No. Once if Kamala and the Democrats had total power, they would not like that. They would send all those looters and whatever to concentration camp or to a labor camp, not concentration camp, to labor camp.
Yeah, is that where you went? You said you went to the countryside.
Yeah.
They do the what is it's like brainwashing or re-education? Like what is that? It sounds scary.
Okay, that is another story. That is after the we're everywhere. Okay, so after the Red Guards took the power for Mao, they become a problem. They were absolutely become thugs, and that's how they did everything for Mao. But after their job is finished, they become a threat to Mao. So Mao sent them all to the countryside and to get so-called re-education from the peasants. And also the other reason is that there's no jobs, and Mao destroyed everything. There's no jobs in city, and he did not want to have a lot of unemployed youth, roaming around the city. So he sent all high school kids to the countryside, and that's what happened to me. But also, I mentioned about the labor camp for the intellectuals for thought reform. So that is always a way for them to get rid of people they don't want and send them to labor camp.
Yeah, because you think like if you're really good, you're on the side, you're on Mao's side and you're high up, but then you think like you're doing really good, right? But then he looks at you and he sees a threat and he wants to remove the threat because he wants to keep his power.
That's what I'm trying to tell American people. AOC, you think you're on the rise, and a lot of those like Mark Cuban thought that they were on the right side, right? That is on the winning side, and then whatever. No, none of them is. Communism is not safe for anyone. Even Mao seems to be a winner, but as soon as he died, his widow was put on trial as a show trial and sentenced to death. Okay, so there's there was just no winner, and people don't understand why there's no winner. Because even if you get into the winning side, you climb up the power structure, because the power is never stable, and there is a nonstop power struggle, and the most ruthless may win. But you know that Xi Jinping now may lose power. There is a very fierce infight going on within the CCP. We may learn soon that he's out of power, and I don't know how brutal this time is. He may just disappear. We don't know. But no one is safe. When you have communism, totalitarianism, this totalitarian power structure, no one is safe. No one.
So how can they can just take power? They can just kind of bully their way in and just take him out and just take it over for themselves?
I don't even know, because I'm never there. You cannot trust anyone.
Right.
And you look for out for opponent or attackers. It is not a way to live. But that's what a totalitarian system is about. So here, sometimes I was just thinking why they would want to do this. We finally figure out a way in countries like the United States. Everyone can have power, right? If you're power hungry, you can have power. What you need to do, you need to convince the voters, right, that you have a good idea, and that somehow you convince them that you are the one. People were put into power. But the problem with that is the power is limited. Not only limited in power, but you cannot be in power forever. So there's a lot of limitation for people like the communists. That's just not good enough. They want not just power; they want permanent and absolute power, and that's what the communists here want to achieve. The same thing. They want like one party system that they choose who will be the leader. So this is what I imagine. If Kamala succeeded and they have permanent power, we'll still have election. We'll still have two candidates, one Republican but we know that it is only for show. They pick who will be the president, and the president and God knows how they get there through the power struggle. And so that is the thing. They don't want to power through the democratic process. They want power just like what happened in Russia and in China, permanent.
Who do you think who do you think is pulling the strings behind a lot of this stuff? Do you know who is kind of behind the scenes? Because the Democrats raised, I think, $1 billion for this campaign. There's a lot of money being thrown to the left to stay in power. Do you know who? Like, do you have theories as to who it is? That's
I don't know. We can only guess, and my guess is that it's not. It's the globalists. It's a group of people. Yeah. So they want control of not just the United States or not just the West. They want to control the entire world. And so they are the ones behind all this. They say Obama's third term. I think Obama's first two terms was also controlled by those people. So, and I think a lot of these presidents that we had were controlled by those people. That's why they hate Trump so much. That's why Trump posed such a threat, because no one can control him. And that's how I think.
Yeah. What do you think? Because there's like a meme I saw that was like, it said something about like, why don't they care about climate change in China? And it's because, well, they already have communism there. Do you feel like climate change?
It's excuse. It's absolute excuse. Climate crisis and what they're really after. Give me more power, I will solve the problem. Power, give me more power. Everything they do, So I would, sometimes I think I'm just probably need to be a little subtle, more subtle, but I'm not subtle. You cannot give them benefit of doubt. Every intention they have is driven by power. That means all their intention is evil. It's never about the marginalized people. It's never about the Black people. It's never about the gays and trans. It's all about power.
Right, because they don't have the trans thing in China. It's kind of interesting. There's a billion, I think his name is Roy Singham, and he's a member of the Chinese Communist Party, and he donates a lot of money to the trans movement here in America, but he doesn't donate any money to it for China. So it's kind of,
he wants chaos here. Yeah. Everything they do is for power, and everything they do is for division and chaos.
What about education in China? Because that does seem to be an area that, I mean, on paper at least, it says, kids in China, their test scores and things are much higher than America. They have limits on TikTok, and what do you?
I saw Vivek had on X, he had a tweet, and then I can't find it anymore. He said, China is doing a great job, and we can't be left behind. China is not doing a great job. Now they have total control of the educational system, and then they really, really treat the kids as slaves. It is not a desirable place to be as a kid. So the Mother's Day, just a few weeks ago, and there is something went viral. So there's a lot of kids went to social media, said, "On Mother's Day, I wish I was never born, so that I don't have to put up with this kind of like this life as a student, as a little kid. You work from the moment you woke up, more work, and then the homework until bedtime. And the weekend you have to go to get tutored and some kind of extra classes. And the goal is to get to college, get to the best college, and then when you get out of college, 2/3 of the people can't find jobs nowadays.
Wow.
It's not about creativity. It's about memorizing. It is about absolutely, it's about control. So I don't think that that's true. In that system, you create some very, very good students with math skills but overall, that system is so rotten that really treat kids as resources for the party. Because before, Mao wants those kids to be revolutionaries. Today, Xi Jinping wants those kids to be his slaves, to build his empire. It's all about power in different phases and in different stages. Now he did not want those people, the kids, to be revolutionary, to make trouble, because he's in power. He had power. He just wants them to obey and serve, not for themselves, but for the party and for him, and for the government. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I think, because I mean, you talk about that, like how the one thought, it's just everybody must think the same. And you mentioned that in your book about how when you got to Western Kentucky, you're like, oh, like I'm supposed to like think for myself. No one's ever asked me what I thought about things. I was always just supposed to think the same thing that the Chinese Communist Party thought. So I found
no one just told
really
what to think. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So we have a problem here. We experience Mao's Cultural Revolution. And then when Mao want to use the kids as revolutionaries to overthrow the government so that he can take power, right? Can consolidate power. That's what we're now. Now they don't care about learning academics or improve your skills. Now they want to turn them into activists, or another word, revolutionaries, because right now they want the kids to be their army of rebellion, and just like Mao did during the Cultural Revolution. So different stages called for different strategies. So Mao used different strategies for power. And right now, here, they are doing everything they do. Everything they do is about how to get power, how to get more power, how to get to the stage that they have control of everything. And just like a one party and one group that make decisions and take over the entire world.
Yeah. Well, you've written the book, you're doing the interviews, you're doing your part. I'm trying to do my part by sharing this information. Hopefully people will listen. And again, the book is available now. I'll put the link in the show notes. And thank you so much for doing this. It's 2:00, so I want to let you get out of here, but I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I really do.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
And it's a great conversation. Bye.
All right. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Every topic, one of a kind. From the rockers to the wise men.